Hey everybody, welcome to Shark Scrapper Live, where if you're a recycler, a scrapper, or someone who likes to invest in those companies, this is the place to be, where we talk about what's going on with precious metals, industrial metals, and the various companies that operate in our world. Good afternoon. Welcome back, Scrapping Irish. And hello, GCR, JR Cat, Roger at CU Scrapping and Electronic Scrapper. Great to have you all here. So, man, I don't know how many of you have been seeing Scrapping Irish's shorts on President Biden's visit. I think the Irish are getting a better opportunity to see the president than we are from the shorts that Scrapping Irish has been putting up. All right. Well, look, we are diving right in today. We've got some fun stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about what's going on with gold here all of a sudden. And if copper was following gold, we're going to have our safety announcement, as always, a little business note, and some chat about some of the comments that I've received during the week. So anyway, we're going to get right into it here. Gold. What's going on with gold? All right, so let's jump right over here. This is what I'm talking about right here. We had this drop at the end of the trading day, at the end of the week, and then gold sort of, went down from its high and is sitting down a little bit lower. And if we look at the 3-day, we can see that gold was tracking right along nicely here for a while during the week. And then here's that drop. So like, why are we starting to see this? And essentially what it boils down to is the Fed. So the Fed had a bunch of numbers that came in this last week. And there was if you look at the week here, you can see that as investors were talking about what the Fed was doing, there was some back and forth about what's going to happen with inflation and interest rates. And so, then the Fed came out at the end of the week and, basically talked about, there's some signs that we're still going to have to keep raising interest rates. And when you raise the interest rates, then the dollar becomes a better investment. And so gold is not as much of an investment. So, there's this little play. But here's the thing. I don't want anybody to get, petrified or scared that we're going to lose value in gold, because here's the 2000 mark right here, right? So if you look at this 2000 mark for gold, we're doing pretty daggum gold good. I mean, if you look at the 1 year, so if we look at 1 year and we look at the 2000 mark right up here, we can see that we are, we're at all-time highs here. Okay. So, gold is doing good. So nobody should be panicking over, this little short-term drop here. This is the normal, this is the normal kind of stuff that goes on, within the week of things going up and down a little bit. And, because gold is so valuable, $40 change, for gold is not that big deal, right? Silver, that's, well, you don't ever see a $40 change with silver like that. So I wouldn't get too upset about the recent drop in gold. Overall, we're going to see this continue to play out well for us. E-Waste Mike, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. We can also see here. Let's go. Here's the 1 week. Here's that drop, and then let's go down and look at the gold to silver ratio 1 week. And so you can see the gold to silver ratio was dropping off, but because gold took this hit here. So when gold took the hit here, it pushed the gold to silver ratio up. And that's what we would expect to see happen when gold takes such a quick hit like that. All right. So again, I wouldn't panic. Don't be selling your gold, but this is one of these things that does kind of create questions for folks, right? Because, there are people out there that want to buy gold, but gold's really expensive right now. So, the time to have bought gold was a year ago, right? Out here, even longer. I mean, you look back in here would have been a good time. Here would have been a good time. So, yeah, I don't know who's buying gold right now. Is anybody out there buying gold, or are you taking advantage of the gold to silver ratio and buying silver right now? Just for transparency, I am not buying physical gold right now. It's too rich for my blood right now. But I am curious to see if there is anybody else out there who is buying physical gold. Harold Haas, welcome. Great to have you here. Hello from Norway. Laffer Sheffield, hello, sir. Welcome. All right, so that was, I always like watching these little burbles with gold and stuff, and it can drive a lot of things. I don't expect to see a big change going on with board prices and stuff right away. Normally they want to let these things ride a little bit, and most of the yards were a little bit slow to increase their pricing on boards when gold was going up. So probably not expecting to see the prices go down. If they do, they might go down a little bit, as the yards try to hedge this a little bit. But I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of movement here unless we see gold continue to go down. All righty, now our safety note for the day was given to us by a pickup that I did this week, where it was a construction site. And normally when I'm on a construction site, I will have my hard hat on, just part of the PPE that most construction sites want you to have. Well, this one really wasn't a real construction site. They were rehabbing the interior of the building. Technically it was construction site, but it was all interior work. And they had brought everything out for me and put it in the front parking lot. Well, because I didn't need to have my hard hat on, like a moron, I didn't. And so, I ended up getting a bit of a sunburn on the bald stuff up here. So I am going to be putting one of my jungle hats in the Sharkmobile, because sometimes you don't need to have the hard hat on, but you do need to have some protection from the sun. So, and I know that, some of you are thinking, well, I'm too far north or whatever. Now, that sun is still out there. If there's no clouds, or even if you get sporadic clouds, even if it's chilly, you got to watch that sun. And trust me, skin cancer is not any fun. I had skin cancer on my nose, and the surgery, although, it wasn't terrible, it wasn't any fun. And sometimes, one of the bad things about skin cancer, basal cell carcinoma, is you may not notice it right away, and then it can get deep, and then they have to dig, literally dig pretty far in order to get at it. So you don't want to be getting skin cancer. You don't want to have the doc using a Dremel on you to get that stuff. You really want to be conscious of the sun. So it was a little wake up call for me. Not one of my smarter moves, but I fess up when I'm stupid and I share it. I'll be having a jungle hat in the truck all the time now, so that if I don't have to have my hard hat on, I can have the jungle hat on. Nice thing I like about the jungle hat is it's got that back flap, so it keeps my neck shielded as well. The other thing that you want to do is make sure you have sunscreen with you all the time, so you can rub that on your arms, your hands, your nose, that kind of stuff. Sunscreen goes a long way to blocking the sun, and you want to make sure that it's a good high number SPF rating to help protect you from the sun. So let's see. CU Scrapping was saying his grandfather had skin cancer repeatedly. He's genetically predisposed, not taking any chances. Yeah, it's good to be careful. I burned so bad that I have to stay out of Florida. Oh man, yeah, yep, very true. And GCR is saying, yep, this time of year in Florida, yeah, you really gotta watch out. So it really is something you got to watch out for. I tell you, one of the worst sunburns I ever had in my life was actually snow skiing. I was uh, I was up in the Rocky Mountains, beautiful, beautiful place, and I had gotten in there. I had gotten into the ski resort with the snowstorm. So when I got up in the morning, very few people were able to get to the ski resort because they had to shut down all the roads from the snowstorm. So first thing in the morning, there's maybe, I don't know, a dozen, maybe 20 people. I mean, there were more staff than there were people skiing. And I got on the chairlift right behind the ski patrol, got up to the top of the mountain, and it was beautiful. And it was really warm, so I took off my shirt and I had it tied around my waist. I'm bare chested up there skiing in the snow. Oh my God. Now I was much younger. Okay. So the big fat belly wasn't hanging out there, but oh my God. Within, I don't know, an hour or two, I was roasted and toasted, and it was from the snow reflecting up on me. And I had goggles on. So, I mean, I had the classic reverse raccoon eyes. Oh, it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. So I had to drink heavily that night to deal with all the discomfort from the sunburn, which also wasn't a great idea. But, hey, when you're young and stupid, that's what you do, right? Stuff that's not a good idea. Bush Dog, how's it going, man? Great to see you. Great to see you. George Richardson, great to see you here. Welcome to the show. All right. Well, now this second question is, did copper follow gold? So remember, we had gold that took this dip. So we're going to head on over to copper, and we're going to see what copper did. Here's a 24-hour copper. We had a little bit of a dip from 412 down to below 409, back up to over 413, and then back down to below 409. So if you just draw a straight line from the start to the finish, yeah, you got a dip. But in actuality, but if you just sort of average that all out, well, it kind of really didn't do a whole lot. But it is technically down from what it started out as. But here's the thing, though. There's a big difference, of course, between gold and copper. Now, a lot of people are kind of talking about investing in copper these days, similar to the way they do gold, but you got to be, I recommend you not think of it that way. We love copper, right? We all love copper, but copper is an industrial metal. It's being driven by industrial use, not as a hedge against inflation. So when you look at what copper has done, as we go through some longer term trends, we see the 30-day copper is up. If we look at the 60-day, we see it's kind of up here. If you went from the beginning up to the end, it is an upward trend. But if you look across the average here, yeah, it's, you can't really say that a whole lot was going on over the 60-day. But it's really obvious if you look at the 6-month, we're using copper. We're using copper. Copper is getting, as the world has been opening up, as green technologies are picking up, there's just more and more copper being consumed. If we look at the 1 year, well, we have this drop, but look at this increase here. This is what we love to see as scrappers. I mean, that is a real nice, strong signal. But let's cut to the chase. I mean, why is this going on? Well, we're going to go all the way down here to the 5-year London Metal Exchange copper warehouse stock levels. And if we look at the bottom of the stock levels, we see the bottoms are all trending down. And if we look at the tops of the stock levels, we see that they're all trending down. So we're using up copper faster than they can produce copper. I've seen a number of reports. Oh, that would help, wouldn't it? Thank you. Thank you. I didn't know. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad you called me out on that one. So we're just going to go right here with the London Metal Exchange. You know what? Nope. Let's go back up. I got to repeat myself here real quick for y'all. So here was copper. It started out, dropped. This is the 24-hour copper price. It started out, it dropped, it climbed back up again, it fell again. So technically copper was down here for the 24-hour. But it was, as I was saying, it's very important not to confuse that with what's going on with gold. If we look at the 30-day, we see that the copper prices were still climbing. We look at the 60-day, you can't really see it as much, but here on the 6-month, we can very clearly see copper prices rising. And what's really driving it, where I was at when you all pointed out that I didn't have the charts up on the screen, is right here, the 5-year London Metal Exchange copper warehouse stock levels. At the bottoms of the bases, it keeps falling. Now they try to bounce off of this level here, but you can see where they have gone below that base right here. So they're pushing to almost 60,000 tons. So we're using up copper faster than it's being produced. And a number of the reports that I've seen, the predictions are, the forecasts are that the mines will not be able to produce as much copper as the world is going to need as we move forward. Just some of the challenges that have been going on with mining and the countries that that bulk of the copper is coming from, they're just not going to be able to meet the demand. So that means that for us as scrappers, copper is going to become even more valuable for us to be able to sell. So it is very, these are for us as scrappers. These are really good signs when we see that it's bouncing off of this base and going below the base, and the overall inventory just continues to trend down. So yay, copper, keep inventory dropping so that the prices keep going up. And this is what we're going to expect to see for the long term. So with that in mind, I have been promoting the idea that folks should always keep at least 10% of your copper behind when you're selling if you have to sell copper in order to meet your cash flow demands, that's fine. You got to do what you got to do to meet your cash flow needs. But if you can, try to keep some of it behind as a strategic reserve. 10% is a good amount to try to keep behind. Copper is good because it doesn't take up a lot of space. The weight can add up pretty quickly with copper. And that gives you the opportunity to be able to take advantage of what these long-term price hikes that we're going to continue to see. I am a firm believer that we're going to see the price for copper continue to climb, and it's going to get back up to these levels, and I'm quite certain it's going to get way above these levels in the long term. So let's see here now. What kind of comments did this discussion generate? Let's see. Simon, the aluminum is another story. Big guys resell some reserves from. Yeah, we're not talking about aluminum today. We talked about aluminum before, and I'll do aluminum again next week or the week after. So yeah, you got to, aluminum is another one that we need to keep an eye on. Loffer's saying that on that though, I'll buy a shed load more copper tubing. I need it for work. Yeah, man, if you're a plumber or an electrician, I would be stocking up on copper and wire. I really would. Now, I know with wire it can have an expiration date, so you have to be a little bit careful. But it's a long time, right? It takes years for your copper wire to go out of date, especially if you're storing it inside and those kind of things. But you definitely need to be thinking about your stocking levels for materials. Let's see, Simon, in 97, 99 will repeat. The supply for palladium will be almost stopped. This could trigger palladium to fourth. Yeah, we can talk about palladium again in a future section, a future installment, because palladium is another very interesting metal that we all have to pay attention to as well. George Richardson is saying he must have 354 kilos of copper saved up. Mixed bright wire and number 2. Yep. Yeah, that's so that's the mix. It's a similar mix. I have some number 1, I have some number 2 copper, and then I have some bare bright copper. So those are very convenient ways to save it. If and depending upon how you've got it, if you cut it up into smaller chunks that can fit very nicely into bins and barrels and things, and that'll store very nicely. JR Cat says, I pull all the copper pipe when I buy a new house, change over to PEX. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good way to get some copper, isn't it? Yeah, very cool. That's a very cool way to do it. It's it's a value add to your business, I guess, in that sense. And George said he's not cashed in copper for about 3 years. Yeah, cool. George, some people have to in order to keep their cash flow going. But if you don't have to, it's a very good metal to hang on to, because that value is going to keep going up for sure. Board Sort, Chris, welcome into the show today. Chris is saying that palladium plays a big part in e-scrap pricing. Yeah, it's one of the ones that a lot of people don't think of, right? They think of the gold because, you can actually see little bits of gold and things like that on the boards. And so it's one of those things that a lot of folks concentrate on that. But yeah, palladium is definitely a big part of the pricing that we have to pay attention to as well. So let's see, what do we got going here? Jose was get rid of my low grade copper and stock number 2 and bright. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can sell your lower grade copper in order to keep your cash flow moving, and then you can stock up on the better stuff, because that's where you're going to get even more value later on as the value keeps going up. So, and welcome to the show. Great to have you here. So I always try to think of other ways to find more copper. So, we find copper in wire, we find copper in plumbing, we find copper in some heat sinks and such. Where else have you found copper before that, other than those common kind of things? Where else have you all found copper that we can be sharing with each other as places for us to find some more copper for us to keep stocking up on? And then, of course, we would expect the price of brass to go up as copper goes up, because, copper is part of brass, right? So, you want to be hanging on to your brass as well if you can. And again, brass is nice and heavy, usually in small chunks. So there's certainly a good way to hang on to that. GCR, there's a scrapyard here that will buy burnt copper wires, and I always thought it was illegal in all 50 states. All right, so I don't know about illegal in all 50 states. I can't answer that question because I haven't looked at each state's laws. I do know that here in Florida, where I live, you're not allowed to buy burnt copper unless the seller can prove that it came from a fire, or you are, as I am, another scrapyard or a secondary metal recycler, because then that has passed on the liability. So if I sell burnt copper to one of my yards, it's my responsibility to ensure that where I got it from is a legitimate source and it wasn't from somebody who burned copper. So yeah, technically a yard can buy burnt copper. My yard will buy burnt copper too. They'll buy it from me because I'm another scrapyard. I am a secondary metal recycler, so they're allowed to buy it from me. And they can buy it from someone if they can show documentation. Usually what they'll ask for is documentation, like a note from the fire department that your house was in a fire or that this came from a fire. So it's not so much that it's against the law to buy burnt copper as much as there are restrictions. Here in Florida, we call those controlled items. Burnt copper is a controlled item. ACRs are controlled items if they come from a central air conditioning system. Catalytic converters are controlled items. So controlled items, they're either controlled because of concern for theft or concern for environmental purposes. So that yard might be being a little bit loosey-goosey with who they buy it from, but technically there's nothing that says that they can't buy it. Let's see. Oh, back on the where to get copper from, old boiler heat exchangers. Yes, that's right. I did a swimming pool heater recently, and it had a beautiful, beautiful copper heat exchanger in it. So, Lawfer, good point, really good point. Those older heat exchangers and swimming pool heaters can be a good source of copper. So that's a good one. Watch out for wire crafted items. Lots of times the wire used is copper. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, maybe at secondhand stores and stuff like that, you might be able to get it relatively inexpensive. Yeah, Rogers ice machine and pool heaters. Yep. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, burning copper wire is not a good idea. Absolutely, you should not do it. Period. End of story. It is really bad for the environment. The insulation, when it burns, it puts out all kinds of nasty stuff into the environment. So you definitely do not want to be doing that. And there are countries in the world where they do open pit burning like that, and people have a lot of health issues as a result of that. So yeah, you do not want to be burning copper wires. Yeah, bush dog, that's a good point. You end up with some wire that has some burn marks from overheating. I was getting a lot of technically burnt wire from the cell phone tower company when I had them as a client because of lightning strikes. So there are some nuances in burnt copper wire that you need to think about. It's not all just people that are burning the insulation off. There's other things that can cause the wire to either appear burnt or technically be burnt. That is not just burning. Laufer says sometimes it's sent overseas to burn off. Some other countries are not particularly bothered. Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of these other countries, they may even have laws that say you're not supposed to do it, but then they don't enforce the laws, or the inspectors get paid off, or those kind of things. So yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of places where they don't care. They're not worried about it. It's not good. It's not good for the people that live there. Yeah, it's just not good. Let's see, 80 to 40 gallon bin at different locations that they like to go once a week and make some. Yeah. All right. So I'm assuming what you mean is you have these bins and they're all out at different places, and they put the wire and stuff in there for you, and then you go collect them up. Very good way to do it. I have a couple of clients, electrician clients, where I have the same relationship going. I leave bins there, they put their stuff in it, and then every other week I go empty the bins. And if it gets full faster than that, they give me a call. So it's a good way to, have the stuff out there. And sometimes they don't even want you to pay for it. They just want it gone, but they want it gone responsibly. So that's cool. Very cool. And yep, yes, sir. Okay, cool, good. I understood the comment. It's funny because sometimes when I'm reading the comments, I'm trying to keep up with the flow of the comments. I misunderstand the comment, or I kind of get the comment out of context. And so sometimes my response may not be, perfectly aligned with what the comment intended. And so that, it's, if I ever do that and you're like scratching your head going, huh? Yeah, just, drop me another comment and say, hey, Shark, that's not what I meant, or, whatever, because, I tell you, when you're doing this live and you're trying to keep up with the comments and, go through the material that you're presenting, it's really easy to get distracted. So we've come up with some really cool ways to get copper, putting bins out of places for folks to put wire and stuff in there for you, pool heaters, those old heat exchangers. Those are some other good sources of copper. That's awesome. Great way to share where we all can find some good stuff. All right. Well, let us move on now to our business note of the day. And this actually applies to hobby scrappers as well as business scrappers, and that is to know your buyer. I know this seems like a no-brainer, right? It's like, of course you need to know your buyer. Well, there's a number of facets to this that are really important. I had a number of questions, and what drove this note for today was some of the comments and questions that I got over the last couple of weeks in some videos that I posted, where people were asking me about pricing differences between mid-grade boards at different places and those kind of things. And this is where knowing your buyer is really, really important, because when you know your buyer, you'll understand how they are identifying and defining what something is. I frequently refer to boardsort.com's standard for what a board is and what defines a board, as best anybody can define a board, because BoardSort is a very sophisticated yard when it comes to e-waste. They've done a lot of research into the value that the different boards bring us, and that allows them to be able to differentiate the boards into a number of different categories that can allow us to get more money selling to them. A lot of scrap yards don't do that. A lot of scrap yards are nothing more than a metal yard that also takes e-waste. They're not really e-waste yards. So the result is that they may only have 3 categories: low, medium, and high. My local yard is just low, medium, and high. My local yard, their mid-grade boards are basically colored motherboards. And so they'll pay me for mid-grade. They're paying a little over $1 a pound right now, but that's because what they're talking about are colored motherboards. Now, because they know me and because I understand their standards, they will allow me to put things into the mid-grade bin that they would not allow other people to put in there. That's because that's where I'm putting stuff that BoardSort would call peripheral low. The reason for that is, by the time I take shipping off, it's not worth it for me to send my peripheral low-grade boards to BoardSort. So I can put that in with my mid-grades for my local yard and make some, reasonably good money. But my yard knows me. They know that when they see something that isn't a colored motherboard in that mid-grade bin, that I have considered how much value is in that board, the gold that's in that board, so that they're not polluting their mid-grade category. which is going to be very different than the mid-grade category that Chris would buy at boardsort.com. There's a lot of stuff that is in the mid-grade category for boardsort.com that my yard would absolutely not take as mid-grade. It's got to be in the low grade. So this is why it's so important to know your buyer, so that you understand, the value and why they are paying you what they're paying you. I also understand with my local yards who is selling to another buyer, who is selling to a mill or a refinery place. So that helps me to understand why their prices do what their prices do. And there's a back and forth that can go on sometimes when necessary to, negotiate your prices. The other reason that you want to know your buyer is you don't want to be shipping off a box of high value boards to somebody, anticipating that you're going to get paid a certain amount and then either not get paid that much or not get paid at all. So one of the things that I really love about doing business with boardsort.com is I can go on their website. I know what the box is going to be worth before I ship it to boardsort.com. Now, when they get that box, they're going to check my weights. They're going to check what I put in the board. And Chris will always let me know if they have downgraded or upgraded something that I've put in there. So I know exactly why they've done what they did. But there are people that have gotten ripped off by unscrupulous buyers and refiners out there, and especially on the refining side, that they'll say, oh yeah, I'm going to pay you, X amount of money for your gold ram. And then they either don't pay you and they disappear, or they don't pay you as much and they say, oh, well, when I got it, I didn't get nearly as much gold out of it as I thought I was going to get. So that kind of stuff is, it's really hard to do. It can be very painful when that happens. Now, the result of that is that I'm always very careful when I find a new buyer. I research the bejesus out of them before I'm going to start doing business with them. Now, I have this potential new buyer up in Atlanta, and you saw the video. I'm sure most of you have seen the video where I have a Gaylord box full of boards going to them. And I did a lot of research before I reached out to them. Once I was convinced that they were legit, then I reached out to them. I got connected with one of their buyers. It was actually turns out to be one of their vice presidents for sales. And he and I have had some exchanges back and forth. And they have agreed to let me come up and see their facility. So when I have that box ready to go, I'll probably drive it up myself. It's a 5.5 hour drive. It's not the kind of thing I'm going to want to do with every Gaylord box that I send them. But for the first visit, I'll be able to go up there. I'll be able to see the facility. I'll be able to get to know those folks directly and develop a relationship with them that will allow me to feel more comfortable shipping them 600 pounds of boards at a time. That's a lot of money, right? So you want to make sure you know who those people are. Now, this is also an important discussion from the perspective of the buyer as well, right? So boardsort.com is a great example. If boardsort.com is going to buy a truckload of boards from somebody, they want to make sure that they know who that buyer is, and that they can either trust that the buyer is putting in that truckload what they say they're putting in the truckload, and they're not trying to scam them or get sloppy. Or if they know that that person is sloppy, then they're going to be more careful with what kind of prices they're going to commit to with them. Or they might even say, yeah, look, we're not going to buy that until we have a chance to get it all sorted out. And that can take some time, right? So understanding your buyer, developing that good relationship with your buyer, very, very important. GCR is saying that he always recommends BoardSort too. Thanks, Chris. Yep, spot on. Roger saying my local yard, they consider motherboards as high grade at 50 cents a pound. Everything else is low grade. Ouch. Oh, man. That hurts, man. That just hurts me to even say it. Oh, man. Roger says he only deals with Chris at board sort or drive the lower grades 2.5 hours away. Wow. Yeah, man, I hear you, man. That's harsh. GCR local yards are 50 miles away now. Oh my God. Wow. That sounds like there's an opportunity for you, man. Open up a yard. Become the place that people can sell to locally, and then you get large volumes of it that make it more efficient for you to drive it that far, huh? Okay, well, it is time for our stock discussion, and we have got something really fun to talk about. We're starting to come back around now on some companies that we had visited very early on when we first started going live. Here we go with the first of this week's companies to look at, Coca-Cola. I know you all are shocked, right? You all are like, whoa, Shark Scrappers recommending Coca-Cola? Well, of course I am. It's my favorite go-to beverage. I'm not saying I won't drink a Pepsi, right? But Coke is my go-to. From a purely business perspective, though, let's look at why Coca-Cola. Their ticker symbol is KO. They are offering 2.9%. Now, this is down. A few years ago, they were up pushing almost at 4%. When I first started buying into Coca-Cola, they were actually closer to 4%. So their stock share has gone up enough that even though they keep increasing the dividends, the dividend yield is down, at 2.9, almost 3%. And that's on a share price of $62.40, which is actually not a bad entry point, right? That's pretty good, place to be able to go in and buy some stocks. As we saw before on the previous look at this, they were not qualified for cash flow per share or earnings per share, but they are a div 0. So that means that they have increased their dividends per share every year for the last 17 years, and actually a lot longer than that. Coca-Cola has always been really good about taking care of their investors. Now, if we look at that graphically, we can see here, here's the cash flow and earnings per share. Here's the COVID dip, but the dividends per share continued to rise throughout all of that. And then on the year-to-year change, we can see that the gold bars, which are the dividends per share, they are always above the 0 mark. All right, now the other company that we love to compare with Coca-Cola is Pepsi. So here's Pepsi. Their ticker symbol is PEP. Their yield is 2.5%, and their share price is $182.50. Holy bajoli. I mean, come on, man. I don't know about you, but I can't afford to be going around buying $182 share stocks. But, having said that, they are a div 0, right? So, oops, this is what I want. They are a div 0. So like Coca-Cola, Pepsi has increased their dividends per share every year for the last 17 years, and actually much longer than that. Remember, I've been doing this for a while now, so even though the Value Line Investment Survey that I use to get all this data from only goes back 17 years, I've got data going back much further than that. So Coke and Pepsi have always done a good job of taking care of their investors. If we look at Pepsi graphically, we can see that, like Coca-Cola, they were basically on a generally upward trend, had a little bit of COVID issues. Not as bad as Coca-Cola, and we'll talk about why here in just a minute. And then here's their long-term dividend trend. If we look at the year-to-year changes, just like Coca-Cola, we can see that the dividends per share are always above the 0 line. All right, well, let's go over and compare the two stocks side by side, Coke and Pepsi. Pepsi's in the purple, Coke is in the green, and we can see that cash flow per share, Pepsi is actually doing better than Coke. Both of them, though, are on an upward trend. Earnings per share, Pepsi doing better than Coke. Still, both companies on an upward trend. And dividends per share, again, Pepsi outshining Coke, but this is only because this is the actual dollar value, and that 2.5% on $182 a share versus 2.9 on $62 per share. So that's why you see such a big difference here. However, what I do want to point out is that the slope of Pepsi's line is steeper than the slope of the Coca-Cola line. So Pepsi appears to be willing to increase their dividends a little bit more than Coca-Cola. Now, I just want to remind everybody that Pepsi is not a pure beverage play, although they are in the beverage industry, and that's where they get analyzed and compared to other beverage companies. Pepsi, which, you know, they own Pepsi Cola and Diet Pepsi and all that, but they also have the Rockstar drinks. They have Gatorade and Tropicana, but they're also in the snack food industry, right? So they have Frito-Lay, which is Doritos and Ruffles and Lay's. They have Walkers, Smiths, and Sabritas. So that's one of the big differences between Pepsi and Coke, where Coca-Cola tends to be a pure beverage industry. Pepsi also has their snack food side, and that allows them to have better numbers, I think, than Coca-Cola. Scorpion Metals, welcome. Mr. Matthews, welcome. Great to have you all here. Great to see you. So the other thing that I want to point out about both Coke and Pepsi is that they have recently started venturing into the alcohol business. Now, when Value Line, wait a minute, do that, do this. When the Value Line Investment Survey analyzes companies, they bin them by the industry. So here you can see, here's all the beverage companies that they're analyzing, and some of these are straight, beer companies or distilleries. And what Coke and Pepsi have started to do, which is very interesting, is they're starting to build some partnerships with some of the pure distilleries or alcohol companies, and they're making pre-mixed cocktails. So, you can get a Coke and whiskey, or Coke. Wait a minute. Let me see what it was here. It was Coca-Cola and Jack Daniels. So they're merging with Jack Daniels so that you can get a pre-mixed cocktail of Coke and Jack. Or Jack and Coke, or, well, anyway. And Pepsi's starting to look at the same kind of thing. That is that's a really interesting kind of twist, that they're starting to look at the distilleries. And it's interesting, when I look through this whole list of companies, that the alcohol companies really do not do as well as Coca-Cola or Pepsi. There is only one of the alcohol companies that would even be qualified by the standard that I use. It's a company called Brown-Forman. Their dividend is only 1.3%, so it's not great, and their share price is it's $64 a share, so it's what you would pay for Coca-Cola, but you're getting a much better dividend yield from Coca-Cola. But Brown-Forman, they're engaged in the marketing and sale of distilled spirits and wines. They have Jack Daniels, Finlandia, and Korbel. But again, their dividend yield is only 1.3%. So they're really, it's not like they're something that you would really think about putting the money. If you're going to put money into a 60 some odd dollar a share beverage company, you'd put it in Coca-Cola because you're going to get a better return. So, just a really interesting play in the beverage industry. Now, for everybody that's out there, especially my Patreon members, my patrons, the industries that were analyzed this week were food processing industries, retail, wholesale, food industry, the beverage industries, the tobacco industries, educational services, entertainment technology, reinsurance industries, and cybersecurity. So if you have an interest in companies that might fall inside of any of those categories and you would like me to get you some more information on them, feel free to send me an email. Patrons, I will be happy to put together a similar comparison for other companies that I would share with you on the Wednesday Patreon or patron only video if there's something there. You know, for like food processing, those are fun names like Nestle, Smuckers, Unilever, Utz, UTZ. You know, those are kind of like pretzels and chips and things like that. Some interesting companies there if you're interested in seeing some more of those. Yes, Diageo is on the list. Diageo is on the list here. Let's see. And I know why you're asking. Who knows why Scrapping Irish would be asking me if Diageo is on the list of beverage industries? Who can guess? What is it about Diageo that makes them so interesting to Scrapping Irish? Let's see if anybody can. Let's see if anybody can guess why Scrapping Irish would be interested in Diageo. And I feel like I should play the Jeopardy music, but then I'd probably get a hit. So here's no, Diageo is not in gold, Roger. Come on. Whiskey, well, now they do. Diageo does do whiskey. They do Johnny Walker blended Scotch whiskey. They do Bailey's Irish liqueur, Captain Morgan, Smirnoff, and are you ready? Here you go. That was the drum roll, right? Guinness. So, yeah, I can understand why Scrapping Irish is interested. By the way, Scrapping Irish, Diageo is offering 2.1% dividend yield, and that's on a share price of $181.64. But they are not qualified by my standards. So they've had some hits. They're not as consistent with their dividends as you might like them to be if you're spending that kind of money. Now, of course, if you drink a lot of Johnny Walker or Smirnoff or Guinness, then maybe you don't worry about that. And maybe you take the view that, you're just helping your own investment along. All righty. Well, it's time now for comments. Comments from the stream, from the posts that I've had over the course of the week, and I'm going to bring this one up because it's an important discussion. Remember, I believe it was either Wednesday or Friday. I had a video up where I broke down an old compact PC, and I got a comment from a guy, and I decided not to put the name of the channel up here, just because they were a little bit snarky, but it's an important and valuable comment. So here was the comment that they put up. Worth at least $40, not working, well over $100 if it works, but at least you got that $5 of scrap out of it. All right. Now I get these comments frequently when I break down an older kind of PC, and I suspect that any of us that have shared scrapping of older PCs have seen similar kind of comments. So when I get these, though, I get it. I understand. If you're the kind of person that likes working on vintage computers and old computers, seeing somebody like me take that computer apart is hurtful. I get it. I can understand that. So I don't get upset with these kind of comments. What I do is I respond back to their comment, and I ask them, hey, if if you email me your contact information, I will let you know whenever I get a vintage PC, and you can let me know if you're interested in it before I scrap it out. Whether it works or it doesn't work, it gives them the opportunity to at least be able to get to take a look at it. And I have tried to put these things up on eBay, and I've had mixed success with selling vintage stuff on eBay. Now, what was interesting when I responded to this particular person's comment, they did not come back to me with anything. I have not heard from them since they posted this, but I did hear from 3 other people who have said that they would like to contact me. I haven't gotten their emails yet, but they did say they would be interested in taking me up on that offer. And one of them even said, I'm really good at selling on eBay, so let me see if I can't help you try to sell this stuff on eBay. So I'm not trying to call anybody out here. I'm not trying to embarrass anyone with the comment. What there's a couple things that I'm trying to do here. The first one is, if any of you are out there and you're scrapping and you're putting up these comments, and you're putting up videos of scrapping older stuff, and you get these kind of comments, there's nothing wrong with going back to those folks and saying, hey, I get it. I understand. If you're interested, reach out to me, get me your contact information, and I'll be happy to work with you to see if there's something we can't do to give you a first opportunity to buy this before I scrap it out. I've got some older PC stuff in the shark cage right now that I've got out there either on my eBay listing, or that I'm going to send some pictures to some of these people when they get me their contact information, because I'd much rather sell these older PCs to somebody who is a collector who wants to try to get them working again, rather than me scrap them out. Let's face it, from a pure business perspective, if I can get $100 for something as opposed to the scrap value, that's a better business decision. But there's also a part of me that just likes the idea that a vintage collector could get this thing working again, and it doesn't have to just go in the scrapyard. So I don't know how many of you have gotten similar kind of comments, and and how have you dealt with this? So let's see, Roger, I tell people like that to send a check and I'll mail it out. Yep. I agree, Roger. The issue is the room for the resale. And that's a big issue, right? Because these things can take up some space. I've still got one of those old hard drives from the traffic control system. And that thing's big, right? That's a piece of furniture, and it takes up a lot of space. And I put it up on eBay, and I had some people comment on the video, but none of them have come back to me and even made me, any kind of offer. I won't even say reasonable. None of them have come back and said, well, I'll give you X for it. They've just said, you shouldn't take it apart. Well, okay, but we've only have so much space, right? So that's a big issue. Homer's Reluctant Odyssey. Homer, I think you're new. I don't recognize the name. If you've been here before and I haven't noticed you, I apologize, but it's great to have you here. Yeah, I've scrapped out so many things that were worth bunches of dollars. Yeah, right. You get a lot of that. You get a lot of that kind of comment, and I don't take it personally. I get it. For some people, they really, really don't like to see the vintage stuff get taken apart. Other people are just being a little snarky. Hey, life goes on, right? Roger has a list of people. One buys his bikes, one buys his propane. Yeah, so having a good list of buyers is important, right? Because, and if I had a list of vintage PC buyers, I would love to have like a mailing list. So when I get this stuff, I could put up a picture and say, hey guys, I just got this. Is anyone interested? Because JR Cat, you are absolutely right. Scrap is the lowest value. And if there's any way that we could sell this stuff at something better than scrap value, that's the way I would like to do it. And I'm sure you would like to do it too, because you would get more money for it. Honestly, when I get these comments, I like to try to work with these people. and we'll see. You know, I got a couple people here that have said they're interested, and if they come back with their contact information, I'm definitely going to be building kind of a mail out list so that I can, you know, say to them, hey, you know, here's the latest stuff, the latest new old stuff. But the same goes for all of you. If you see something on my videos and it's of interest to you, let me know. You know, because I'm happy to try to work a deal for any of my viewers. You know, and see if we can't get some stuff to you. I've sold stuff and provided stuff to a number of folks that are my viewers in the past. I love doing that. I think it's a great way for us to stay together as a community. Great to you know, great to do that. Homer, yes, I'm a new commenter. Watched a bunch trying to learn the circuit scrap thing. Well, welcome, Homers. Man, this is a great place to do it. There's a lot of great information that that I share through my videos, but all of the people that you see commenting and being a part of this, there's a lot of great experience here. And if you hang on, I'm going to end this stream in just a couple of minutes. And if you have your autoplay enabled, it's going to redirect you over to Scrapping Irish's live stream. Scrapping Irish, as the name implies, is in Ireland, but there's a whole bunch of scrappers that come up on his live show right after mine, and we keep talking scrap and having some more fun and learning from each other there. So welcome to the scrapping world. I look forward to your comments on all the videos, and I'm happy to help you as you go down this journey. I also recommend that you go check out boardsort.com website. They have a forum there where there's a lot of discussion about boards, how to identify boards, and how to evaluate them. So that's another great place to learn. So welcome to the channel. Great to have you here. All right, everybody, we are going to hand off to Scrapping Irish. So remember, if you have your autoplay enabled, you're going to automatically be redirected over to Scrapping Irish's live stream. If you do not have autoplay enabled or something goes weird, please go ahead and join us over on Scrapping Irish's live stream. If I don't see you out there, we'll see you during the week with the videos that come out. Or if all else fails, we'll see you here again next Sunday at 2 p.m. right here on Shark Scrapping Live. Have a great week, everyone. Be safe.